Hey everybody, it's me, Russ, and I'm here to talk about Roadside Monument. I am the day of current taste. Check it out. It's got the transparent, marbly kind of vinyl. And here is the creative force drummer. Check this out. All right, I'm here with Matt Johnson, right there.
What's up?
This is the drummer. Now, Roadside Monument, great band. You gave me a record, a couple records. I sent one with my friend Sean out there in Philadelphia.
What's up, Sean?
And oh hey, thanks, dude. We're on the road. We just went and got an alternator. So,
Fixed our car today.
That's right. And I thought I'd pick Matt's brain here. He was like telling me some stories, and I'm like, wait. This is content, man. Yeah. This guy was in a pretty popular band back in the day, 90s, signed with Tooth and Nail Records, the same label as MXPX and Roadside Monument. So first of all, Matt, where did you come up with a name? Like, that's a really cool, interesting name.
Roadside Monument
for a band.
Our guitar player, Doug. So I joined Roadside right when their first record came out, and they had there was a big several members sort of swapped out, and I took over on drums. So I wasn't in the band at the beginning, but the guitar player and vocalist Doug, I think he saw graffiti on a wall. Somebody just spray painted Roadside Monument. He was like, that'd make a cool band name. So
yeah,
there's really nothing to it. There's no like meaning,
right?
Meaning or anything.
Wasn't a deep meaning or
right. Yeah.
My cousin died, and there was a Roadside Monument.
Right. Yeah. Nothing like that.
So signing with so how long did you play? You played here in the city, mostly all ages clubs, right?
For the most part, yeah.
Did you play a lot? Like how often did you?
Yeah, we played, especially early on when I joined in '96. We played for a while. We were playing like once a week. So we would play the Velvet Elvis Theater. We would play. There was a place called the Pioneer Square Theater. That was kind of short-lived, but it was similar to the Velvet Elvis, probably a little bit bigger. And as some people in Seattle may know, there were really weird laws about how it was really difficult for all ages.
Right, you had to have some $100,000 worth of insurance or something like that.
More than that. I seem to remember it was like $1 million. I might be wrong about that, but the city made it really difficult for all ages programming to happen, and the loophole was that I think non-profit organizations, there was some sort of loophole where they could host stuff like that. So the Velvet Elvis, I think, was some sort of co-op. It was like a artist co-op, and they did kind of underground theater type stuff there. But then on Sundays, all the times they would have shows.
And this is still in the time when like record companies were still, like really interested in Seattle music, right?
Yeah.
Nirvana had a few albums, and of course Alice in Chains. So all of that was kind of Seattle was the scene at the time, right?
Right. And I would say that was sort of the era that I was really active, was a little bit post-grunge, I think.
Post-grunge, right.
So you had like bands that were kind of fringy type bands, like kind of in the punk or grunge world or whatever, and Roadside sort of, in a sense, sort of came out of that.
Right.
So you can hear kind of the musical lineage, but it's not grunge. It's kind of... now this doesn't mean anything because the terms have changed so much, but then somebody might throw around like emo or whatever. The bands that were that got that moniker at that time. I don't know what it's like now, but people detested that moniker. Like, we're not emo, you know, like
right.
you wouldn't want to say you were emo, but at least the mid to late 90s version of that, it sort of fit into that a little bit. So kind of post-punk, a little angular sounding, but with some melody still, you know.
How would you describe?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Doug and I grew up on classic rock. Jonathan grew up in a pretty sheltered Christian family, but then discovered punk like in the mid 80s, and so we were just talking earlier about how I grew up on, you know, standard kind of classic rock radio, and really appreciate all that stuff. But then in probably 85 or so, I got turned on to more underground punk stuff. So 11 Minor Threat, Dead Kennedys, pretty much anything that was on SST.
Skinny Puppy, right?
I like Skinny Puppy too. Yeah,
they're touring again. It's
That's
interesting.
crazy.
With the
That's
Paramount
crazy.
soon.
It's funny. I was listening to that a few months ago. I listened to that when I was in 8th grade. I got that record with Mission. I think it was their first full length, and it's sort of this cyber, I don't know, industrial punk kind of. And I remember thinking how evil it sounded.
Oh yeah.
Back then, and I listened to it again. It's like, it still sounds evil, but it kind of sounds cartoonish at the same time, which was sort of interesting to have a few decades removed, you know.
Right.
It didn't seem so scary anymore. But yeah, so that was sort of my background. So those worlds kind of collide, and we were just wanting to do something new, you know. And
so when did you get signed? How did that work out? Like, you get signed to a label? That was
so prior to that I was in a band called Blenderhead that also was on. It was also on Tooth and Nail, and we had heard we were doing everything independently, just through some connections and friends, some mutual friends and stuff. There was a guy that was running this radio show in, I think it was at Oregon State University. It was Brandon Ebel, who's the owner of the label. We heard that he was starting a label, and our bands were, you know, we were sort of church-going folks, you know, part of the college ministry type group. So we had connections sort of in that world, but at least the bands that I was in, and many of the bands that were sort of part of our scene were sort of connected to that world. And there had been a generation or two of like Christian music that I think we were sort of like, well, we don't really want to do it that way. Like, we're really not into like being preachy on stage or evangelizing. We just want to be a band and have our beliefs sort of separate from that in a way, and just be your normal band. And so Tooth and Nail, the vision that Brandon had, kind of fit that pretty well. Where
it's just like there's no swears, right?
Yeah, no swears.
We're not going to talk overtly about sex or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So you know,
he sold a ton of records that way. It was pretty brilliant.
Yeah, it's crazy. Right? So yeah, I mean, and it's funny. Early on, I don't think this is the case now, or even, you know, probably 10 years after he started the label. But early on, because he had distribution through these Christian outlets, he basically had to have an ordained pastor vouch for somebody in the band.
Oh, wow.
So I remember, like, we had to go and find a pastor to say, like, oh yeah, these guys are a part of our college ministry and they really are Christians, you know. Wow. And we were like, oh, this is stupid. So we had to do that. But we, you know, so there's like a lot of cultural baggage with that we were pretty unsure about, where it's like, well, we don't really want to do like a youth group circuit. We don't really want to be doing evangelism band. But we felt like we had freedom to kind of be ourselves, and we had the support of this label that also had general market distribution. So that felt like a good way of sort of splitting that difference. And I think over the years, like, Blenderhead wasn't really a good fit for that, but we were glad to have that support, label support. And Roadside even more so. I think after Blenderhead went on a national tour and came back, it was like, and we sort of made to our booking agent, we're like, look, we don't want to play church basements, we don't want to do the youth group circuit or whatever. So they tried to accommodate that, but we ended up playing pretty churchy stuff anyway, just because of those connections. And so when I got back and then Blenderhead broke up the summer of '95, I was like, I don't think I want to do that again.
Right.
And then Roadside asked me to join, and we really felt pretty strongly about that. So
yeah, I wouldn't call it Roadside at all. It's funny. I mean, again, that was kind of Tooth and Nail's brilliance too.
Right.
But this is a Roadside Monument. You wouldn't say, "Oh, that's Christian music."
Right.
It's just,
Right. Yeah, and so in those days, it was tough because a lot of the bands that would have bands that were on bills that we played on that we fit with stylistically and aesthetically, a lot of those bands had an awareness of Tooth and Nail, and that was the identity of the label. It's like, oh, they have these stupid Christian bands, and like they must be a Christian band. So there was a lot of snobbery in those days, to where if you had an association with the label, people were like pretty hands off. So like an example of that would be, and I've probably told these stories before, but we wanted to play the Velvet Elvis, which was this great venue where a lot of underground bands were coming through town, and we knew that we'd fit really well there. We always were going to shows there, but the booking person there knew our association with Tooth and Nail, and like were pretty standoffish about it. So we would just rent the space out, and then we would invite bands that normally played there to be on the bill. So
that's cool.
We'd pay a fee, they'd get paid, we'd do our show normally like we would, and then once we got to know the people, they were like, oh yeah, you guys are good.
Nice.
So like they would invite us to shows, we wouldn't have to rent it out. So we were always having to deal with some of those politics.
Right. Once they found out you weren't gonna like do like an altar call or
right.
something.
Yeah, totally.
Do a prayer group or something.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But we were really glad to have the financial support, and there were larger bands on the label. You want to take a record next week? That really kind of helped to fund the smaller bands like us. So the MXPXs and like the Supertones, that were like a ska band. Were these huge bands that financially helped to keep the engine running for that label, so that smaller bands like us actually had some resources. So like an example would be, if we were on a small indie label and we broke down on tour, which was a common occurrence,
right,
there's no way we would have the support of a small label. But we would always joke about, if we were stuck, and there were at least 2 times this happened, our van broke down, we call the label, we're like, hey, we want to stay on the tour, but like we're broke, and like our van's shot, like
right,
if you want to help us out, we'll keep touring, but like we don't have any more resources. And they're like, okay, send us the bill, fix the van. We'd say, thanks, Supertones. Because we knew that that's where that
money came from.
Yeah, exactly. So it was good to have the support, but the cultural aspect of felt like sort of running uphill. Just trying to be taken serious as a band, but then the Christian kids that were like, you'd play a show and then they'd want to grill you and make sure you were Christian enough that it was okay that they had your record in their record collection. It's like,
wow,
I'm not going to do a Bible study with you, kid. Like, we're just here for a show,
Right, exactly.
So it was a weird middle ground to be in.
And you guys had some like kind of edgy songs. I think it's one of your most popular songs. What is it? The Sperm
Ridden Burden, yeah.
Sperm Ridden Burden.
Yeah.
That's right.
Our bass player came up with that, and we're like, dude, do you think maybe you might want to change the name of that song just because of like where our distribution was? He's like, no, he's like so committed,
right,
artistic integrity or whatever. And to the label's credit, like they supported us in that. But most of the Tooth and Nail catalog also was distributed in Christian bookstores.
Right.
So then you'd have like these mom and pop Christian bookstore owners like calling up the label, like needing reassurance that it was okay to carry it, And so like that album was pulled from.
Oh, really?
Chains, yeah.
So the album cover wasn't that some artwork from? Where did you grab that, or is that?
I think the guy's name is Brahm. He does like comic book type art.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like a It looks like a old-timey priest with a shotgun over his back, and he's like, looks like he's kind of swooning, and he's got like it looks like a Bible outstretched in his arm.
Right.
I don't know the comic reference, but
so you guys went on tour. Was that 2022? Kind of reunion tour.
We did a few shows. Yeah, so we played Furnace Fest,
Fest.
which is crazy because we played the first one, so it was 20 years later we played it again.
Right.
And then since we were rehearsing for that, we decided to do a Seattle show too. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's great shows.
Where was Furnace Fest?
In Birmingham, Alabama.
Wow.
At a place called the Sloss Furnaces, and I think it's a metal refinery that's decommissioned, and there's like a city park there.
That's
so
cool.
these like
kind of like Gasworks Park.
It's like Gasworks Park, yeah. So it looks like all this broken down, rusted out machinery, and they built a park around it. So they have a few stages there. There's like tens of thousands of people who come out. Yeah, it's a great festival. It's a lot of fun.
And there was a guy, I remember you shared some pictures on Instagram, and there was a guy that had that image that you guys used on the album cover tattooed on his back, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of those guys out there, yeah.
Oh, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's dedication, man.
Yeah, no doubt.
I've saved...
That's a fan right there.
I've saved photos over the years. I've seen a guy, there's another guy that has about the same size tattoo on his side. The first Furnace Fest, we met a kid that had it on his arm.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's commitment, man. It's pretty cool. We're like, all right, you get in for free. Here's a t-shirt, you know?
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's cool that like all these years later, people still care about it. And,
still love the music.
We didn't have a huge following. We weren't a big band on the label, but our fans, like, it feels like our fans stuck with us and they still care, you know? Which is really cool.
Do you guys have a vinyl now of
Yep, our last record, On the Day of Current Taste, we got a vinyl re-release. We kind of planned that around Furnace Fest. We did a limited run of that, and those are all gone.
Nice.
So they didn't sell out, but we were close to selling out.
Right.
I think we just had a handful, maybe 20 left after the festival. So that was really cool. That was great to see a vinyl release of that, and hopefully with any luck, our record before that, 8 Hours Away of Being a Man, the one that you were talking about, the artwork, that got a vinyl release years ago, but it was a pretty shitty packaging.
Right.
Next driveway.
Oh, okay.
So if we could get a re-release of that someday, that'd be pretty awesome.
So that album cover though, the CD. So it came out on CD, and the CD was like three-dimensional or something like that. You were saying?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Foil
So yeah, 8 Hour or On the Day of Current Taste. They redid all of the artwork from the original. It's funny because they didn't have original artwork. They didn't have the original artwork file. So I think what they did is they scanned the CD and then they recreated it in HD and made a 3D version of it.
Right.
So there's a pair of 3D glasses that you can put on that has this 3D effect.
And see the image on record.
You're looking for the
record. There it is. Boom.
Nice.
That's the one.
In 3D. Yeah, man.
Sure. It's still might need that. There we go. See that? I'm getting my record signed by the artist.
That's right.
On camera, that's the way you do it.
I thought I already signed one. Did I sign one of these for you already?
Yeah, you did.
Oh, okay.
That's the one I sent to Sean.
Nice.
Sean out. Sweet, there it is. All right. There it is.
Thanks, Russ. You rule.
You bet. Thank you, man. Thanks for